Welcome to Brainstorm. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dream punk and deeply weird fantasy author. And yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpses. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 39 of Brainstorm. Once again, in today's show, I have some in-depth story brainstorms for you, taking the writing prompt game of Exquisite Corpses to extremes. I'll pick words at random from the socks of destiny, make sentences from the results, and use those to go on a very weird storytelling journey, 3 times over. I will also make liberal use of not just the pause button, but the stop button to really test how far I can take these ideas. Am I bonkers? Of course I am. This is what I do to stretch my imagination to its limits, which is a fantastic exercise for all writers to really keep your imagination limber. So thank you for joining me in these bizarre explorations, which you can do with or without a pen in your hand. But first, some exciting news. As regular listeners and subscribers to my email list will know, the release date of my upcoming collection of short stories, Portals and Immortals, is 5th of November. Remember, the 5th of November. But in the meantime, I'm releasing a free but very limited edition ebook of the first story in the collection. It's called The Cat and the Shadows, and it is out now, but only if you know where to look. The download link is hidden on my website on a hidden page. That means you can't Google it, and it's not showing on the menu of my website. So the only way you can get to it is by typing into the address bar of your browser www.annatizard.com/cat. It's that simple. So annatizard.com/cat. It will only be available until the 23rd of October. So my apologies to future listeners, but the entire collection, including The Cat and the Shadows, will be available to buy in paperback and ebook formats in all the main bookstores from 5th of November 2023. And in the meantime, the ebook will very soon be available to pre-order from Amazon. It just needs a cover design before I do that, and Emily, my designer, is beavering away as we speak on the cover, so keep an eye open for the pre-order too if you're interested in getting the ebook before anyone else. Right, time to get on with the show and some new story brainstorms. Bring forth the socks of destiny. Now, as regular listeners will know, Exquisite Corpses mixes words and phrases that lovely people such as yourself send me through my play page at annatizard.com to form a sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. So let's have a look in our first sock and see what we find. I have a word from Anonymous. I get lots of words from Anonymous, and it is flying. Okay, now let's have a look in the noun sock. And we have a word from Harold, crisp packet. A flying crisp packet. Okay, let's see what action we have. This is from Paul Thomas, a regular supplier of words and phrases. Cast a spell on. Okay, I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to pick another word until we've got an entire exquisite corpse. So the next word is from Anonymous again. Agitated. It's an interesting adjective. And our final word and noun is from Fraser Armitage, the sci-fi writer. Carnival. An agitated carnival. Ooh. Okay, so I'm just going to read the entire exquisite corpse and see what we've got. The flying crisp packet cast a spell on the agitated carnival. That is a bit different. I do quite like that. It feels physical. It feels like something colourful and magical is happening. And the first part, with the flying crisp packet, makes me think of the rubbish left behind after a big party, the silence and emptiness of a field after a big event, after a lot of noise and activity. Agitated carnival. Now, agitated can mean stirred. I'm sure you can find recipes where you have to pour some ingredients into a bowl and agitate them with a spoon or a whisk. And that could really work with a carnival where you have a big wheel and bumper cars. Things are stirring, being spun around. Then again, agitated could also give a sense of the atmosphere underlying an apparently fun, light-hearted event. There's an underlying tension there. Amid all the excitement and laughter, there's someone who's not happy at all, who's plotting something. That could work. I also like the contrast between the first and last sections of this exquisite corpse, which seems to underpin the idea of a disguised or lurking tension. The flying crisp packet speaks of the desolation after, of an after-party silence, the sort of drabness. A lone crisp packet shuffles around in a circle, touched by a breeze. And at the other end of the exquisite corpse, we have an agitated carnival, all raucous noise, high energy, screams whipped round in a circle as people swoop through the air on a big wheel. Circles are happening in this story. But how does a flying crisp packet cast a spell on the agitated carnival? I think I'm going to need a little bit of green tea. Let's see if this helps. Add a bit of a stir. Right. Oops. Okay, I'm not going to tell you when I'm using the stop button. I'm just going to use it from time to time and you'll have to guess. Such is the magic of editing. The carnival spins, shrieks fly, easy as laughter, popcorn tumbles from clumsy fistfuls, and discordant music jangles across the park, gaudy as the colours of the ghost train. The park is no longer a park. The open field, jam-packed with noise, flashing lights, and the sickly sweetness of candy floss. Amid the cacophony, a man strides slowly. His boots crunch over nuts and crisp packets, but the sounds are lost in the strange quiet he carries. Crowds of shouting teenagers part without even noticing the man. He is the eye of the storm, the vortex that chaos cannot touch, Perhaps his old school friends are here from 5 years back, but none of them would recognise him now. Is it the pointed goatee, the smudge of black eyeliner under each eye, or the spiral-patterned robes that skim his growing paunch, also new? How a once skinny boy cowered from the shouts of his peers. They called him Egghead, they called him Runt. He should have been a geek, but he wasn't. A nerd, surely, destined for academia or law or medicine. No such luck. He didn't have the brains that fitted his stereotype. He was quiet and bookish, yes, but his books were all about make-believe. And now he makes what he believes. They thought he'd outdo them all, which is why they were so cruel at school. He did outdo them, or will soon, just not in the way they were expecting. The man stops in front of the bumper cars, frowning as he peers at the riders. Yes, his face clears as he spots the couple he's looking for, the sweethearts from school. Still together, still gloating. Sweet as melting candy floss in front of the teachers, in front of everyone, except they were the nastiest gang leaders you could imagine. The man raises his arms above his head. The clanging music slows. Lights flicker. Darkness rumbles from above. Time slows. A single crisp packet dances between him and his two targets, who glance around, wide-eyed. The crisp packet catches a neon light and throws it back. They see the man. Their faces freeze. A crack of lightning and the rain sheets through. Screams from everywhere as people pull their jackets over their heads and scramble in all directions like a disturbed ant's nest. But not the couple. Slowly they stand, their eyes fixed on the gap on the grass where the man had stood. No more. It's a warning. He'll be back. But what will he do next? A revenge tale, I think. This is getting rather creepy. Maybe I'm in the mood for Halloween already. Right, I think it's time for a second exquisite corpse. Okay, we reach into the socks of destiny again. And the first word is from Robin, the mail lady. Malevolent. Okay, we have darkness of intention. And the second word is from Niall. Centaur. It's time for a mythical creature. And now for an action word from the action sock. We have, this is from Ebenezer. Danced with. Ooh. Let's have another adjective or describing word. This is from Harold again. Reflective. Okay, is that psychologically or physically, like a mirror, I wonder? So our final noun is from me. Pencil. A reflective pencil. Okay. So all together we have the malevolent centaur danced with the reflective pencil. Right, reflective pencil. Oh, I know what that means. What you write reflects who you are. In fact, writing is one of the deepest ways to discover yourself. Not necessarily through writing fiction, although that will give you plenty of clues and metaphors for what you really think about the world and your place in it, for better or worse. But reflective pencil is making me think about journaling. You can, of course, get lost in that mirror, so to speak, of self-reflection, if you make the mistake of cutting yourself off too much, isolating yourself, until you almost begin to believe that you are an island, a standalone puzzle to be solved. Narcissus got trapped in his own reflection because of his beauty, but there are other ways to get caught in a mirror of self-reflection. It might be a fixation on a fault we have or believe that we have. It might even be self-loathing, a self-loathing stare. It's usually healthy, I think, to try writing a journal to work through your personal struggles, your difficulties. Definitely, especially if you approach the exercise with a positive attitude to self-exploration. But what we are dealing with here is a malevolent centaur. So we know already this exercise has not gone well, for the sake of this story. Although that same malevolent centaur dances with the reflective pencil. So how does the malevolence fit in? Is it the enchanted pencil that he wrote with that made him reflect upon memories he'd spent a lifetime trying to forget? And is there a clue in the fact that he is a creature made of two halves, half man, half horse? What does that mean? Maybe that's the key. I'm going to go a bit fairy tale with this one, I think. An ordinary man, an ordinary servant to the prince in his palace. He keeps his place, he bows at the right time. He's a perfect butler. He's separated from his family, who would live in poverty if it wasn't for this fantastic job he's landed at the palace. So he should be grateful, he tells himself. But being so young, it's hard to be surrounded by so much wealth, from the gold-plated cutlery to the diamond chandelier in the grand hall that sometimes shivers in the wind when the big front doors are opened, tempting him to hold out a hand in case one of those precious stones should drop. And the beautiful women who come to visit the prince, laughing at his every joke. Our servant sees the spark of jealousy in their eyes, desperate for a crumb of that wealth. He feels the same spark in his own eyes and a bruise in his chest. These ladies have a chance at grasping a little of their own, can laugh and flatter their way into the prince's favour. The prince might not even mind if they snatched a loose diamond or two from the chandelier. But he, Matthew, is no one. He serves and he bows at the right time. That is all. One day he hears the other servants whispering about a room full of enchanted objects, kept locked, but to be unlocked soon for a dusting and a fresh lick of polish in preparation for a visit from the prince's cousins. Every item in that room is said to hum with magic. Each was stolen from a witch who was burned for her transgressions. Such cruelty, such hypocrisy, thinks Matthew, but his heart quickens at the thought. A room full of magic objects? Maybe he could borrow one just for a little while. He'd have a little fun, then he'd put it back. Perhaps it would be something that could change his fate for the better, make him rich, handsome, lucky. He could leave his job and its long hours, go back to his family a changed man, and they'd never want for anything ever again. The next day, when the head butler delegated polishing of the glass cabinets of this exhibition, Matthew smuggled his excitement under a poker face. "Yes, sir," is all he said, and took up his cloth and polish, ever the humble servant. Inside the framed glass boxes, there were strange necklaces that slithered like snakes, as if looking for a way out. There were leather-bound books that seemed to breathe, the covers rising and sighing in a slumber, as if dreaming over their contents, the fables or histories hidden inside. But the flashing pencil was what caught Matthew's eye. Its point floated, poised over a blank page, as if tempting Matthew to write with it. But what would happen if he did? Peering closer and polishing the frame more vigorously as an excuse in case his colleagues were watching, Matthew read the small piece of card which sat in front of the pencil on its display. A pencil that writes the truth so fine, it realises your inner design. What did that mean? Something to do with a deeper truth or who you really are? Matthew wasn't so sure he was interested in that. He moved on, kept polishing, but the idea began to plague him. Of all the pieces in the room, it had to be the least dangerous. Inner design? What if that meant he could get what he wanted? If he wrote down his inner designs, would they be revealed? He turned back to reread the card. It didn't say reveals, it says realises your inner design. Matthew's heart leapt. Maybe that was the pencil's magic. He could decide his own fate, who he wanted to be, and then he waited until the head butler gave the order to start packing away their things. And in the kerfuffle, while the others' backs were turned, Matthew picked the lock with feverish fingers, fumbling with a thin scrap of wire he'd found. The pencil glows as he grabs it and stuffs it in his back pocket. That night, he will write down his deepest desires, but something about the way the pencil moves and glows, or maybe it's just the act of writing, which he so rarely does, pulls his anxieties, longings, and most desperate thoughts out of him. He vaguely recalls something about truth in that description of the pencil's magic, and this seems to prove itself. He is just a slave working here, no life of his own, he scribbles. He is just a cart horse to this arrogant prince. A horse? And so, Matthew's thoughts are realised through the pencil. Earlier that evening, he entered his room full of hope and excitement. He leaves the castle behind on 4 hooves. A horse indeed, half a horse, still half a man. But what about the dancing part? The malevolent centaur danced with the reflective pencil. And Matthew's not really malevolent yet. Perhaps that's the new challenge if I or you decided to write this story. That would be the remaining puzzle to solve. Or not. There's no rule that says that you have to fulfill the Exquisite Corpse perfectly, word for word. These are springboards for our imagination, the beginnings of journeys yet to be discovered, and they can go anywhere our imaginations take us. Right, I think we're on to our third and final Exquisite Corpse. Okay, so our first describing word is from Elena Dennison, and it is slippery. Okay, let's grab a noun. This is from Anonymous again, lemon. Okay, let's grab an action word. This is from Paul Thomas, wrapped itself around. That could be tricky, but let's keep going. Our next word is from Harold again, pompous. Okay, and our final word, our noun, is from at bird_Murphy. This is a social media ID, eyeball. It's Halloween at last, people. Okay. I'm going to read the whole thing out now. The slippery lemon wrapped itself around the pompous eyeball. Okay, so let's think about this. Are we talking about a cauldron of ingredients here? Maybe. It's feeling quite ghoulish with the eyeball. And the word slippery is also playing on my mind a little bit. Okay, let's give this a go. She watches, a single eye bobbing in a bowl of steaming liquid. She sees the wizard's intentions in this potion. An oak leaf twists and shrinks in the water. Oh yes, wisdom. A frog's leg waggles past, sending a ripple through the liquid. The tough stem of life hasn't quite let go or forgotten itself. How the body continues to believe it's alive after its parts are severed. And this eyeball, does it suffer the same illusion of consciousness? No. She is a cunning and clever witch, experienced in much dark magic. She can split herself many ways with enough concentration and a selection of herbs. She once left an arm in her son's wardrobe just so she could slap him for not calling her when he opened it. He was too much into clothes and parties and should make time for his dear old mother. She once left a hand under the chair of a handsome viscount just so she could pinch his bottom. Such are the advantages and the trespasses of a witch as cunning as she. But today she was in her ex-husband's cauldron. Why shouldn't she know exactly what he was up to? It better not be a love potion. The eye turned, rolling. She hadn't thought to transpose her eyelid, which was a shame amid all this steam. Back where her body lay, safely at home, her eyelid twitched with the desire to blink. So distracting. The eye watched and waited for more ingredients to float past, more evidence of what the old fool was up to. Where was he anyway? It was very convenient that he was out of the room and apparently had left this potion alone to stew a while, and she might not have much time left. The moment she heard the squeak of the door handle, she would draw her body parts back to herself, for he would surely remember not using an eyeball in this particular recipe. She'd left her ear on the mantelpiece so she could hear the first sign of his return. A bundle of long hairs waved its thin tentacles at her, nudged by the heat or else by some gentle stirring spell he'd cast. The eyeball retracted at this. She didn't want to get tangled up in that. The eyeball bumped against something solid but less rigid than the edge of the cauldron. It spun, the room blurring. A smear of colours. Yellow? What was this? Some kind of fruit? Very unusual. Inwardly, the witch gasped all the way back at home as this thick slice of lemon wrapped itself around her floating eyeball, stinging so hard she yelped. Her body sprang off her bed, shocked into full consciousness again. Her ear back in its right place, she held her eye tenderly under the cold tap before popping it back in. That fiend! She stamped her foot. He'd known she was coming. He knew she couldn't help but spy on him, and this was his warning, to turn up in the same cauldron in the form of a citrus fruit. And that's how the slippery lemon wrapped itself around the pompous eyeball. Did I just write a story about an eyeball? I wasn't expecting that. But the unexpected is what it's all about when it comes to Exquisite Corpse and discovery writing. Thank you for listening today, and don't forget to go to annatizard.com/cat to download your free limited edition preview of The Cat and the Shadows, which will only be available in this standalone ebook until 23rd of October 2023. Next time, I'll be announcing the top contributors of words that made up the Exquisite Corpses, which inspired the stories in my upcoming collection, Portals and Immortals. As you may know, if you've submitted words before on my play page, I like to give the top contributors of words a signed paperback of the book they helped to inspire, as far as practically possible, as a thank you. So keep those words coming, because you never know if you might end up being a top contributor in line for a signed paperback. See you next time. In the meantime, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's brainstorm. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.